it's Anna, also known as Book Anna. And today I'll be going through some questions that are known as Booktube Newbie tag questions. I saw every new channel do this, so I thought, why wouldn't I be the one of them to do it also? There are 10 questions, and I will try to go through all of them as quickly as I can, but also tell you some things about me. Okay, let's start. So, first question, why did you start this channel? I always loved watching Booktube. I watched Booktube since I was in middle school, which was 6 years ago. So I watched Booktube a long time for how old I am. And I just always thought it will be really fun to talk to a camera about books, and I remember I would sometimes look myself into a mirror and I would talk to a mirror like I'm talking to some people that are watching me. I just always wanted to do it. I just always thought it's going to be fun, it's going to be something I enjoyed. I always wanted to do a Booktube channel, nothing else. And I just, realized that why don't start now? What is the thing that is not letting me start now? Nothing. So I will just start now. So I did. The second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? My personality, of course. Things that are unique about me is that I'm really, really goofy. That's not really unique, but I can bring goofiness. Also, I love reading every genre of books, so you can expect reviews of every single genre. I will probably talk the most about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror, because those are just genres that I typically gravitate towards. But also I love a lot literature fiction, and I want to get more involved in it. I also tried reading romance a few times, but that's still not a genre I'm completely comfortable with. I'm still not well versed in it, but I am not somebody who's going to say I don't want to read something from a certain genre. So you can expect every genre and goofiness from this channel. So the third question is, what are you most excited about for this channel? Talking about books and having people that want to listen to me, talking about something I enjoy so much, and being able to recommend books, because that's something I always liked to do. Every time somebody asks me to recommend them a book, I'm so invested. That's the best question you can ask me. I'm so excited to have a community in which I will be able to spread my love of reading. So I think that's a great answer, actually. So the next question is actually going to be 2 questions, because it's going to be easier for me to talk about it like that and to answer it like that. And also I don't want to be repeating myself. So there are 2 questions. Why do you love reading, and when did you start reading? I started reading when I was about 5 years old. My parents taught me very early stories for children, like picture books and all that, and I loved it. And also every night before going to sleep, my parents would read to me until I was, I think, 12 even. I have a grandmother who would also tell me stories all the time. She's a teacher in school, so she teaches English and Croatian. She was librarian for a long time. She would always tell me stories, and we would make up stories together, and I would draw the stories she would say to me. So it was always just a big part of my life. And then as I got older, I started reading more in English, and that opened up a big door for me towards reading a lot more genres. As I mentioned in my previous video, I am Croatian, so that means that we do not have that many books translated in our language, which means if I want to read some genres, really be invested in them, I really have to go and read them in English, which is not a problem for me. Most of my books that I own are in English, but I just started loving reading even more, and as I get older every year, I love it even more and even more and even more. It just makes me feel happy. It makes me feel fulfilled. I don't think about anything else. I'm completely into story. I am grateful that I have a big imagination, so it's really not hard for me to get into a story. So yeah. So next question. What book or series got you into reading? Okay, so as I said, I read since I was very young, but there was 1 year of my life that I started reading more, and that is the year I discovered Hunger Games is not only a movie but also a book. I think I was maybe 11 or 12 years old when I discovered Hunger Game books. It was a Christmas, and my dad bought me a book, first book. I really wanted it so bad, and I read it that night. I was done with it, and then I searched for the second book, but because it was published by a publisher that didn't work anymore, we couldn't find it in the same format, and I was really sad. So we were searching for it for months, and then we finally found it on some kind of website. Somebody was selling second and third book, and we bought both of them for very cheap, and I read them in like next 2 days. So that's probably the genre that got me most of all. Also, those are the first books that weren't so much like middle grade books that I read, because before then I would always read middle grade books, and then I started reading more YA books. Next question. What questions would you ask your favorite booktuber? I will just firstly mention some of my favorite booktubers, because thank you. Because of you, I want to do this now. So my favorite booktubers are Jordan Reeds, Elliot Brooks, Daniel Green, and Books and Lala. So I would probably ask them for recommendations, and I would just want to talk to them about books that we both read and what are their thoughts and what are my thoughts, and just have a book related conversation with them. I'm a very simple girl, I guess. Yeah. What challenges do you think starting a YouTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Oh god, okay. Editing. If you guys saw my last video, I apologize for the quality. It's so bad. The audio and the graphic, it's so bad. Because that was my first time editing. I really don't know how to edit. I really have to teach myself because I can't go to any courses. I'm just like trying to find it online and try to look at some tips and tricks, and I know that this video will probably still not be edited that good, but I will try and try and try, and I hope that soon enough my videos are going to be watchable. But yeah, that is probably the worst thing, because this talking to a camera, I'm even okay with that. It's not that weird for me, I guess, but editing is really hard, and I really have to try and try to do it. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge. Next question. Where do you read? I read mostly on my bed. The second place would probably be my living room. And the third place would probably be the transport. As I go to college and from college, I have to take a tram that takes me about an hour and a half, so I have a long time to read. So whenever I feel like it, I just open up a book or I read on my phone, because I even have ebooks. So yeah, that's where I read. The last question is the one that I already kind of answered, but I'm still going to give you something more on it. So it is, what kind of books do you like to read? As I said, I love reading fantasy books and I love reading horror books. Also love reading sci-fi. But because I already said that, I'm going to go over my favorite books in every genre that I like to read. So I'm just going to show you my favorite books. Okay, so I just got my favorite books from 3 genres that I mentioned the most. Okay, so the first genre has 2 books that I love, and so horror. First book is Mexican Gothic. This is the book that got me into horror. I loved it. I think this is the book that also got me into loving everything that has to do with fungi and mushrooms. So this is the first one. If you don't know what it is about, it's about this girl Naomi. She gets a call from her cousin that is married into this rich household, and her cousin asks her, "Hey, can you just like come, please?" Like, and Naomi's like, "Wait, what is it?" And her cousin is, "No, just like come, just please come." So Naomi comes. So Naomi goes to her cousin, and she gets interrupted in helping her cousin by some weird dreams and things that are happening in the house, and it's bizarre. The end of this book really got to me because it was the first horror book that I actually read, and it is really good, and I have to reread it sometimes. But yeah, Mexican Gothic. So okay, the next book that is also considered horror, although I don't know what I would consider it, but I didn't read it as horror, but it is my favorite book of all time. It is All's Well by Mona Awad. I firstly didn't want to read this book. I felt like I wouldn't like it, and that is the thing because I hated the cover that I saw with the pills in a skull. So that cover I really didn't like. So I gave it a shot. Although I just read it, I wanted to reread it. Like female characters that don't know what to do in their life, I don't fucking know anything. I don't know how to do anything right. Is this how it's supposed to be? Because I think I relate to it a lot. And also this book talks about chronic pain, which I really never read any other book that talks about it. I don't know if Mona Watt suffers from it, but it was really explained as it is. So I really enjoyed that. So this book is about this professor Miranda, and she is working with a theater group in a college, and she's trying to do this Shakespearean play that's called All's Well That Ends Well, but her students don't want to do it because the play is not that well loved, and she really wants to do it. Also, she suffers from chronic pain in her back and her leg. She can't move as she wants to, so she has that problem on her mind all the time, and now this play thing. And then one day she gets into an argument with one of her students, and the pain is gone. And we go through her life from her perspective from that point onward. So it was really fun for me, and I really enjoyed it so much that it is my favorite book of all time. Next genre I mentioned, but it's literature fiction, but I also figured out that I would like to recommend this book because I also loved it, and that is Boy Parts. I don't know if this is considered horror in any way, but this read more horror to me than All's Well. So this book is also about a woman. I guess almost all of my favorite books are about women. That's okay, because I am one, and I'm proud to be one. This one is called Irina. And Irina photographs people, but mostly guys in not very nice poses, and she usually tries to manipulate them and try to get them in the most uncomfortable position they can be, and then she photographs them. And she's not very nice at all. She's really rude and, as I said, manipulative. But I really enjoyed her perspective on a world and her explanations of things as how she sees them. So I would recommend this book if you can get through the humiliation part and all of that. I think it's really good book. Also, it's one of my favorite books. So next genre I'm going to be talking about is sci-fi. And this time I'm going to be taking a book from a series that's very well loved here on Booktube. That is Red Rising, and my favorite book from that series is Morning Star. And this is the last book I read in that series. I have to continue it, but the last one is my favorite. If you somehow don't know what this book is about, it's about rebellion. It's about this guy called Darrow. Finally. And he lives on Mars. He lives underground because he is in this, I think it's okay to say, sect that is called Red. Red is the lowest one. And he is one of the Reds. He lives underground. He's involved in terraforming Mars, or he thinks so. But then he realizes that they are just fooling them, that the world exists out there for a very long time, and he becomes a part of that world. The first book is mostly him going into this school and going through this fight and trying to process everything that new that is happening. And then the second and third book are more about really drawing on the rebellion part and revolution and him trying to overturn the government. And I love the last book the most because the characters, I was already so in love with all of them. All the characters in the last part had really big character arcs, and I just liked it, and I was so sad when it finished. But I have like a lot more books in this serial. I have this series will have more books. Not all of them are out, so I'm so happy that I will be again in this world, but I have some other books that I need to read before the next one in this series. The last genre that I mentioned is fantasy, mostly epic adult fantasy, and that would be none other than Brandon Sanderson, The Stormlight Archive. So this is not the first book I read by Brandon Sanderson, but it is probably the best book I read. I read the second book in this series. I didn't read third or fourth, and fifth is coming soon, so I really have a lot of work to do. But I read the first book. I'm just going to put it down. So I read the first book. I loved the first book probably the most. I just can't get over the characters in it, and I just can't get over the whole story and premise of Stormlight Archives. This one follows few main characters. The only thing that I knew before going into this book about this series is that one of the main characters that we follow turns out to not be good. So I was really intrigued, and then I started reading it, and I was like, oh my god, who is going to be bad? Because I love all of these characters. I am rooting for all of them. I don't want any of them to become bad. And it's still bugging me because, as I said, I only read the first 2 books. But I really want to continue in this series soon. The books are enormous and really, really dense. So it takes me a little longer to go through them. But I would recommend this series to everybody, even as somebody so this is one of my first like adult fantasy books that I read. Before this one, I I only read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. So, and I really didn't have that much problem going into it. I know that people are always saying to you that if you want to start with Sanderson, maybe start with Mistborn. Maybe I also should have started with Mistborn, because after reading Stormlight Archives, Mistborn turned out to be kind of disappointing to me. Not that the story wasn't great or anything. I still really enjoyed the story, but just I had big expectations after Stormlight Archives. So if you want to read Mistborn, read it before Stormlight Archives, but if you really, really want to read Stormlight Archives, give it a go. Brandon Sanderson's writing is really easy to go through, although this book is dense. As I said, it takes me some time, but it's really readable, and you will not constantly be in like, oh, what is this world? What does this word mean? What does this word mean? It's okay. That would be all for now. Thank you guys for watching this video. Again, apologies if this audio and graphic will also be bad, but I will try my best, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.